Chaos Walking is directed by Doug Lyman and stars Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen, and David Oyelowo. And it tells the story of a dystopian world where there are no women and all living creatures can hear each other's thoughts in a stream of images, words, and sounds called noise. When a young woman named Viola crash lands on this world, she meets a young man named Todd, who together discover that there are many secrets to be learned in this world. So Chaos Walking. This is one of those movies that got delayed, and a lot of people, I like myself, was disappointed because, I mean, look at the stellar cast that is involved in this, you know. We have, of course, Tom Holland, who everybody knows by now. We have Daisy Ridley of the Star Wars trilogy, or the bad Star Wars trilogy, depending on how you look at it. We have Mads Mikkelsen, who can do no wrong in my book. And we have David Oyelowo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I apologize. We have a slew of talented people here, and we have a premise that sounds pretty cool. I mean, we have a planet where the men can hear and see in images everybody's thoughts. I mean, including animals here, which is kind of cool, you know. You can hear your dog or your cat's thoughts, you know. That's pretty cool. And it looks, visually, the way it's represented is pretty cool. It's almost like this sound wave that you can see in these different colors and that sort of thing, depending on the emotions as well. And like I said, on this planet, there's supposed to be no woman, and all of the men can hear each other's thoughts, including young Tom Holland as Todd. And until one day, a young woman crash lands on the planet, and of course, he realizes that around her is just silence. He can't hear her thoughts. So this, of course, leads from one thing to another, and I won't get into spoilers for those who haven't seen it yet. What I will say is Chaos Walking was extremely disappointing. Let's break it down. So, first of all, for a film that had $100 million budget, I did not feel like I ever saw $100 million on screen. I compare what I saw here to something like last year. I saw a movie called, I think it's Love and Monsters was the name of the movie, and I absolutely enjoyed that movie. It seemed, I knew nothing about it going in. I just saw this kind of monster movie. I didn't expect anything from it, and that movie actually turned out to be pretty fun, and the visuals were quite good. You know, you did get a sense of the scope of this world and the monsters that lived in it. With this world, honestly, it felt like any other smaller budget film, maybe taking place in some dystopian future that didn't even look dystopian, because it's a lot of forests and a lot of stuff like that. Guys, it didn't feel like I was in a different world, and that is the first thing I want to feel when I'm watching something like this. Nothing here screamed a different world, or maybe a parallel earth, or whatever you want to call it, the future. I never felt that. I never got a sense of that watching this movie. Okay, maybe we could forgive some of that, but then we have this story. I like the premise, but the execution here was terrible, because first of all, the character development. You have all these talented people, and yet I never got a sense of the villain's true motives or what he was doing or who he was really. There's a surface level explanation for everything, but that's about it. You know, you get a totally wasted Mads Mikkelsen and a totally wasted David Oyelowo. These are two extremely talented men, and it just felt like you could put anybody else in that role and you would have gotten the same result. And I'm not blaming them, because the screenplay material here was so thin. We have Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, and of course in a movie like this, this is a young adult movie based on a young adult adaptation of a series of books. And it's so hard to believe that all of this talent and all of this money went into this film. You have these two people who, again, are talented actors, but I am sorry, they need to be very careful how they're choosing their roles, because just because it's supposed to be a big blockbuster, doesn't mean it's a good movie. We've seen that before with these young adult adaptations. They're not all Harry Potter level goodness. And here, I'm sorry, this one is nowhere near that kind of quality. I wouldn't even put it up there with Hunger Games. You know, their chemistry to me was very lacking, and they were supposed to have this romantic connection between them eventually. But honestly, they just felt like they had just met day one and they had to act together and they barely knew each other. And yes, that could work for the earlier elements of this film, but I never had a sense that they were relying on each other, and they couldn't do what they needed to do without each other. That is something that should have grown throughout the story, even though it's just the first film. I should have gotten a sense of that connection, and I didn't feel any chemistry between these two people. I'm sorry, I didn't. Again, you could have swapped them out for any other two people, and it would not have made a difference to me, you know. Or maybe it might have made this better. But again, I'm not blaming the actors. It comes down to the screenplay. This is a bunch of nothing. This is such a paper thin version of such, from what I understand, is an amazing book. I did do my research, and I looked into the entire plot and the story and everything that this film Chaos Walking is based on, and it sounds so intriguing. Now I want to read the books, but I honestly don't want to see any more of these movies unless they could change themselves drastically. This did not pull me in. This did not have me waiting with bated breath, like I'm looking forward to a second film. This was just empty. And I'm so shocked by it, considering everything that was involved in this. There was so many rewrites. There was time, because the film kept getting pushed back. There was so much time to get this right. And I can imagine how disappointed the people who've actually read these books are gonna be when they see this movie, if someone who's never read the book feels nothing for this film. So are there any redeeming qualities to this movie? Honestly, for me, I would say it's in the cast. I think they have a strong cast, and they can take that cast and move forward. But they need to get better writers. They need to get, I'm sorry, visually, the director needs to step it up. This just was not good enough. This world wasn't interesting, and nothing that I saw there made me want to see more. This story, the premise is interesting, but the execution fell flat. And overall, Chaos Walking is the biggest disappointment I've seen in terms of blockbusters that are finally being released. So I'm giving this film a 4.5 out of 10. Maybe I'm being too harsh, guys. And if you've seen it, you let me know what you think of it. If you've read the books, please let me know. What do you think? Does it compare? Or will you like me sitting there? Because it's, for me, this brought back, of all things, the Dark Tower movie to my brain. Something I don't ever want to think about again. And I've read the Dark Tower series, and I was so disappointed by that. And I kept thinking to myself, wow, based on what I've read about these books, this must be how people who are fans of that story will feel when seeing this movie. That's what I came away with. So if you've read the books and you've seen the movie, you let me know what you thought. Did it live up to your expectations, or did it fall flat? And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the thumbs up button. It's always appreciated. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face when it pops up right about there. And you can check out past reviews if you've got the time. So until the next one, and let's hope it's a much better one. Bye-bye.